Like,
we go from like having conversations to then we're like, okay, ready? Hit
Ready?
record. And then we are silent. And then
Well,
it's like, who's going to break
If we don't
first?
start recording at some point, we just won't start recording because we'll just keep
We'll
talking.
just talk for ages. I know. It honestly, every single time. And I always laugh whenever I go to do the edit. But yeah. Anyways, hi guys. Welcome back to It's Cool Us Too. Oh, I put my like anchor voice on there for a second.
Yeah, you did. I liked it.
It's Cool Us Too, the podcast for women in their 30s who are just looking to build their own little slice of paradise on their terms, their timeline, and by their own rules.
Hi.
Something new.
That was good. Slice of paradise. I love that.
Well, I mean, I am watching Paradise. So like, is it top
true.
of mind? Yes.
Yeah. God, that's such a good show.
I just want to call out the elephant in the room because it's all I can look at. I am down a nail.
I didn't notice. What happened?
I broke it not even day one, like day two when I was in San Diego. I was packing gifting boxes and it was like literally, it was still attached, but like hanging on by a thread. So I went to the spa. Oh. First of all, I have to say this. I was like, okay, I got to go into like the pharmacy to get like nail glue and I'll like glue it together and like, I don't know, maneuver it to stay in place. And I like put a Band-Aid on it for a while. And I was talking to all these women and it was my male boss who goes, why don't you just go to the spa? So I ended up, I know, I was really annoying, to be honest with you, that it was his idea. So I went down to the spa and the woman just took pity on me and put like a builder's gel over it that like held on until like the second last day that I was down there. And then last night, the entire thing just like came off. So because I am right-handed, I am holding it. And I just felt like it was very important for me to address what I knew would be
in the room
burning question for many people because it's all I can look at right now. Even though it's like French tips, so it doesn't really look that different.
I can't see it. I got my nails done.
Those are so cute.
My little nubbins.
Love the blue.
Yeah, they're like very.
They look long
it's like a
for
pale,
you too.
This hand is better than the other hand. Don't ask questions about why. Well, it's because I bite the other hand. But this,
honestly,
this hand's better.
We could never be mysterious.
No.
We're like, don't ask, but let me tell you exactly why.
Oh my gosh. Our friend M, she sent me this thing that was like from Instagram and it said that a Pisces woman is 70% mysterious. And I said, she's like, you're 70% mysterious. She was obviously trolling me. Like she knows I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not your rising sign, so.
Yes, it is.
You're a Pisces rising?
I think so. Don't quote me.
We'll find out right now. We'll give an update. Everyone. I'm going to check my records.
Okay.
And we'll come back.
But yeah, it's been a little while since we recorded.
I know. It's been
Coley was out for work for at least a week.
Yeah.
It's been a little crazy on my end. And I have an update for the listeners. I'm taking a short trip to Milan this week to see a boy who lives in Italy. I'm getting all weird and vajiggity about it, but yeah, I'm really excited. I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm slightly just because, it's been a little while since I've seen him. I saw him in the summer. But yeah, I was saying to Nicole, all signs point to he is written by a woman. We like him and we're going to see how that goes. We're going to do some fun stuff. He's making me like a nice meal. We're going to go to a rugby match because he's a really big fan of sports. He's a sports guy. And I really want to experience going to a rugby match. I did warn him that I don't understand how rugby works. Like if it was like a football or soccer
he can teach you.
Match, I would be able to follow it. But rugby, I don't get it. I don't understand how it works. So he said he'll teach me.
I'm sure he'll have no problem just telling you everything you need to know.
Yeah. And then we're going to a gig.
So fun.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few things planned for a short little trip, but I'm excited.
I'm so excited for you. Slightly jealous, but very excited for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone's like, oh my gosh. Like all my like good friends are like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. But I'm a little bit worried for the impending crash out when I get back.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. Like, I think I'll be in like goo goo gaga land when I get back and then be like, oh my God, I miss him. So
the worst is always the like airport goodbye. That always like takes the most. And then I honestly, whenever I've had that in the past, I end up having the like most intense sleep on a plane because I'm emotionally exhausted from the goodbye.
Yeah, that would be nice, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not the goodbye, but the deep sleep on a plane. I mean, I'm flying Wednesday night all night, and then I land in the morning the next day. So I'm going to dose myself because I want to be as well rested as humanly possible when I arrive. The look on Nicole's face.
I'm like very excited for you.
Yeah, I will keep everyone updated. Maybe not next recording, but in future episodes. Yeah. That's my thing.
That's the updates.
That's the updates. Okay.
I got nothing today. For people. I'm just becoming a human again.
Today okay. Let me explain a little bit about this topic. So we were going to talk about something totally different. And then I was reflecting on this. So there's this woman on Substack, Zoe, I think I'm saying her last name right, Scaman, like Scaman. And she works in advertising. She's quite senior. She's such a good writer. And she's written a couple articles recently that I've been really fascinating. In particular, it's about AI. And she wrote this article called The Pipeline Problem that is very much geared, oh my goodness, is very much geared.
Puberty.
Yeah, what's going on? It's very much geared towards how AI is impacting our workforce, specifically within marketing and advertising. But I think it has legs outside of that. So essentially her point is that what is happening with this AI revolution is that we're replacing junior talent with AI and senior talent. So there's like, if anyone else here works in marketing, there's this very clear narrative playing out right now where it's like, if you're a senior, it doesn't have to be marketing. I'm sure it's in other realms as well. But for me and Nicole, for instance, it's like, if you know how to be strategic and you're relatively seasoned, you can use AI to be better at your job. And a lot of the more junior tasks that you learn that can be replaced by AI. And her argument is that works right now, but senior folks only exist and are good at their jobs because they had years to learn how to do what they do. And we're sort of removing that path for the next generation. And she talks a lot about how difficult that is and how she actually does have a few interesting solutions and use some references from other industries to talk about how we might think about building the next generation of talent. But in thinking about that, I think Cole and I wanted to sort of focus on why it is that, and I think it does have a lot to do with AI, why it is that we're sort of removing this layer of like figuring it out or being bad at things. And AI is a very clear example of that. But I think just even across different facets of life, like building friendships, dating, work, trying a new hobby, it feels like it's harder and harder for people to accept not being great at things or even good at things when they start. So I wanted to have a conversation about, where all the beginners went and how we can aim to get better at embracing not necessarily being good at things right away.
I think Yeah. And I think that where this, I hope, is going to go is, what does this mean for our key audience, right? Like, how is this applicable for them? And I think the lessons in all of this will, like you said, filter into so many aspects of our lives, whether it's relationships, whether it's, new hobbies, or, changing jobs, things like that. So it's not just kind of this like ambiguous conversation. There's like real applicable things that I think mentally all of us really struggle with, the idea of having to start from scratch in a lot of ways. And I think if we were even to think about like this podcast, like how awkward did it feel to start this podcast and be like, we're starting at the beginning. Have you listened to our first episode in a while?
No.
I have.
What?
Interesting. I was just curious. I was like, I want to see how far we've come. Interesting.
Okay.
And like,
what are the key things that like you noticed are quite different?
I think our cadence, our banter, I think we were both very like
nervous.
And again, it's where we are now, where we can just kind of flip on our recording and go, comes with doing this for 3 years now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's just like an example.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. And we never would have done it if we were like too afraid to get it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, we were. I still have PTSD from trying to put out that first Instagram post. But anyways, so where do you want to start with this?
I mean, I think it'd be interesting to reflect on like, when in your life did you feel most sort of in development? Like, when in your life do you feel like was it your 20s when you were kind of figuring out your career and everything to do with life? And I guess double barrel question, how did that make you feel about yourself?
I think it depends on what part of my life.
Yeah.
Because I still feel in development in a lot of ways. And, but like career-wise right now, I feel pretty good. Like, I feel like I have a very good handle, and I'm still trying and testing new things, but my resilience in like doing something, I have enough data in a lot of ways that like if I try a new thing at work, I know decently well where it's going to land. And I have a really great team now that I'm also trying to build up and push from there. Now, this podcast as well, like when we were starting, trying to figure this out, that felt very in development for me. Like I was and not even just in the act of like recording and editing and publishing, but even in the fear of being seen doing something very publicly that I was not, didn't have 10,000, 20,000 followers right away, where we weren't getting like necessarily massive success right from the get-go. So I think that for me more recently has been probably one of the bigger lessons. I think money is still one that I feel like I'm in development on. Like I have a very weird relationship with money. And I feel like I'm learning a lot there too. And it feels really humbling to like figure all of that out on my own. So it's hard to kind of point to one specific time in my life that I felt I was in development more than another, because it just depends on which muscle am I trying to work?
Yeah. I think for me, it was definitely my 20s. But I think the interesting part about, and I mean, for all the reasons we've talked about before on this podcast, like you're a brand new baby entering the world, but
frontal lobe's not developed.
Frontal lobe's not fully there. I think what's interesting about that and how it relates to what we're talking about today and to where we are now is in your 20s, everyone tells you, or the people you should be listening tell you, that it's okay to be in development. Like you really don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So in every facet of your life, you're trying different things and oftentimes they're not working. And you're also learning so much about what you like, what you don't like, what you want, all of that. Whereas I think the challenge with being in development in different areas of your life in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s is that there is this expectation that you're supposed to have it all figured out. Like societal expectation that can become ingrained in who you are. So I think what's very interesting for me is like, I know that there are areas of my life that I'm like, dating is a perfect example. I still don't entirely know what the future holds, how I feel. Like there's so much there that I feel like I'm in development around, but I feel ashamed is maybe too strong of a word, but I definitely feel a little bit shyer about admitting that than I might have been in my 20s when it was like, and I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's not a good thing, but I think that it might resonate with other people who want to do something new or want to get better at something, but they feel like there's a pressure to have it all figured out already.
Do you feel like in that area you're in development though, or do you feel like you just haven't had, quote unquote, the success as you would perceive it to be? Like the end result?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's I just haven't met the person.
Yeah.
Or I don't know who that person is yet.
And like you're still learning along the way. Like, I mean, I'm the same with dating. Like you continue to, every man is a new lesson.
Yeah.
Every experience is a new lesson.
Yeah.
But to some extent, you know, dating and relationships is, I think, one of the main categories in life that you don't have, like, you basically have no control over at the end of the day, because so much of it comes down to luck and timing. So it can feel really easy to feel like you're still, quote unquote, in development or you're a beginner. But the reality is when it comes to like going on dates and meeting people and conversing with people and engaging, you and I aren't beginners at that, unfortunately. It's just we haven't had the perceived, quote unquote, success that we would like to have as it relates to being in a relationship. Yeah,
that's very true. I would not class myself as a beginner in like romantic and platonic
There's still
relationships.
Lots we're learning, but I think what I'm really grateful for is that the generation we grew up in, we were allowed to fail without a lot of visibility. And we were allowed to grow up and make mistakes and do stupid things without, you know, social media or being tracked or, you know, everyone having a camera to film your worst moment. And it builds almost this character development that allows us to feel like we can put ourselves out there, at least now as I've gotten older and more mature, without the fear of like over editing too much before I go and do something. Now I still, because I'm a perfectionist and have very high standards for myself, and which is working through with my therapist, I think that if I hadn't grown up when we did, that would be a million times worse. And like, even think back to like when you were in high school, like what was your first real job that you had?
I was a hostess at Boston Pizza White Rock.
Oh my God, I love that.
Hi, welcome to Boston Pizza White Rock. This is Megan speaking. How can I help you? I literally I worked there for like, oh my God, 3 years. I like loved that job so much. Sorry.
No, but like I worked at a pharmacy for my first job.
Yeah.
And like we had more opportunity to get into the workforce at like 16 years old than I almost feel like a lot of people do these days. If we think strictly career wise, like there's not a lot of like quote unquote entry level jobs, even in like the service industry in the same way, because so many people who aren't going into like white collar work and don't want to go into, you know, I don't know, but I just feel like from what I've heard, a lot of like high school students aren't necessarily getting the same opportunities to, you know, work in a restaurant or work at a grocery store.
Is it getting the opportunities or seeking out the opportunities?
Very good point. I don't know.
Yeah. Cause like what, I imagine, I mean, we've talked about this move away from like climbing the corporate ladder that a lot of Gen Zs are moving towards. And I think that might also be it, is people are like working for themselves, I guess. Like they're building a following online is kind of what I'm signaling towards. Or they're like doing a job that's fully remote as opposed to going into a restaurant or working at a fast food chain. And I think like, I don't know. I know that we want to talk about lots of different facets of life in this, but when I think about the challenge of not allowing people to be beginners at things and not giving people space to like fuck up and figure it out or be in the right rooms to figure things out, like I just think so much about AI and like what's going on because or maybe not specifically AI, but like the influx in technology and being online, I think it's just really scary to see so many ways in which being physically in person with people, like through the lens of career, is being sort of stripped away, and that ability to learn the human element and to learn by osmosis, like less and less, I think that is happening. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that like entry-level jobs are disappearing because, you know, learning how to write a blog post or analyze a piece of data, like those things are not required anymore because you can do that very easily with AI. So I have so many thoughts and feelings about this, and I struggle to make the conversation be anything else but like, oh my gosh, AI is so scary because it's removing the opportunity for young people to learn by being in the room and having mentorship.
So how do you feel? Oh my God, my foot's cramping. Ow. How do you feel COVID and this like real big push to work remote? Do you feel like that has an effect on this change in the way we work? Or do you feel like this transformation towards AI would happen regardless?
I think that in some ways it just dovetails into what's going on with AI. Like I think the two complement each other beautifully, I guess is what I mean. And don't get me wrong, I love being able to work from my house. I also see the value of going into an office. So I'm not saying like I hate remote work, but I think the fact that we realized that we could work remotely, yes, of course, maybe some things are lost. That is the AI how am I trying to say this? The two feel really connected to me. Like the fact that like people can be remote from actually being around other people. And also we are passing work to an AI agent or into LLMs that would be done by young people who are entering the workforce who would probably benefit from being in person. Like the two feel very connected to me. So I think they almost feed each other.
Yeah. Cody Sanchez, I saw something she posted the other day where she was like, if I could give advice to anyone in their 20s in the workforce, do not take the remote job. Go into the office.
Yeah.
Like you cannot replace the experience you get from being around people. Now, where I think a lot of companies F this up, forcing people to go into the office when no one's there. Yeah. It's useless.
I know it's
right?
Useless.
So like we are 3 days a week in the office. Everyone in the entire company is in on Mondays. And then you can pick your other 2 days. I have set it up so that my entire team is also in on Tuesdays. So we start the work week, all of us in the office for the first 2 days of the week. Because if we're going to be in person, you better be around your team and you better have an opportunity to chat with them, to have meetings in person, to walk over to their desk and ask them something and to sit down and look over things. There's no point to me for companies who are forcing, like these videos on TikTok you see of people coming back to the office and they're there by themselves and they're there in the office to jump on a Teams meeting. Useless, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I think corporate organizations they have to figure out their policies around work in the office and remote work to make it make sense. And I think that's where a lot of people are rebelling against having to come back to work because they're like, well, what's the point? I'm in the office and no one's here. Right?
Yeah.
But as someone who's spent the first 5 years of her career after university working remotely for a company in another province, I wish so much that I didn't do that. Amazing experience. I got to be in rooms with very senior people. I had, in a lot of ways, my career is just so not linear. And I got really to do some cool things. But there's a part of me that I think in my early 20s, especially, I would have benefited so much from being in the office and building those relationships and seeing what people are doing. Like a lot of the things that I learned early in my career, I learned because I had to figure it out myself, not because I was being mentored and taught.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think when we think about people who are listening to this, you know, anywhere from late like 20s, 30s, 40s, like it feels like this inflection point where we need to think even harder about how we can mentor more like people coming up in the world, because there are things that are making that more challenging, like remote work as a standard. So like I truthfully don't have a lot of like answers. Like I would love to talk about it, but like I don't have like here's the silver bullet to make sure that we're prioritizing growing junior talent and we're prioritizing. But I guess what I would say is if there are opportunities to be in person with the people that you work with, like I know that it's hard. Like I have moments so usually I don't go in on Mondays, but like on Tuesdays and Wednesdays I'll go into the office. And like, I have moments on Tuesday morning where I'm like, oh, I could like go to that Pilates class in the morning and then just like come home and make myself a smoothie and like get to work at my desk. And
yeah,
I have moments where I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with the faff of going into the office. But every time I do it, I'm like, oh, I'm a real human again. Like I remember why I do this. So it's like, yeah, creating opportunities to do that.
I also think that you end up building, you become a real person at work when you're in the office and you're interacting with people. If you're just a name on Teams or a face on a screen, this is going to sound really harsh and I may get a lot of hate for this. You're going to be seen as potentially replaceable in a lot of ways, unless you are building relationships and building and like demonstrating insane value with what you're creating. But if you're just working kind of by yourself off to the side, you're basically like a contractor. And like, could you be replaced? Yeah. Like, yeah, I think one of the most important skills to learn career-wise that will be impossible for AI to replace is, you know, really strong emotional intelligence, rapport, you know, being able to manage up and down, like, yeah, all of those skills will serve you so well, and you will not get the chance to do it if you just sit behind a screen all day and don't actually interact with people. I think, and again, I want to preface this, like, there's so many jobs where all you do is sit behind a screen and do. Like, if you're a coder, yeah, that's what you do. I get it. But like in the context of, you know, corporate, we're talking about marketing and comms right now. There's so much that I get out of just like sitting around. Like on Thursday, I was in the office and like not all the people were there, but my entire events team was there. And there was probably like an hour we just sat in like chairs and near two of their cubicles and just like talked. Like we caught up, we like shared it. Like and it was that like you start uncovering and peeling back layers on things and understanding what's happening and all of this. And I think like I love AI. We've had many times. You are terrified by AI. I love it in a lot of ways, but it will never give me that.
Yeah, now, I'm also incredibly close to what's going on. Like my company works in data. So I see where it could go. And it's probably further than you think. Like it probably can
Oh, yeah.
give you what you just said. So I'm scared because I think about the human the human things that you don't get to learn. But I think about the lack of creativity that AI can, because we're all lazy as humans, including me. I'm like, what if you're not building the skills that we're talking about, like emotional intelligence, building rapport, relationship building, because we start just relying on AI to coach us or do for us what, and it's it's scary. I obviously can't talk about it very eloquently
openly.
right now.
No, that's fine. I have a question for you. How many people do you manage on your team right now?
I manage 3 directly.
But how big is your total team?
9.
Okay. So I manage 6 right now. Most of them are direct. How much time do you feel of your workday you're able to spend mentoring or giving feedback and developing your team?
Did you say of my work week?
Yeah.
Oh God. Maybe like 2 hours?
Yeah, like it's not a lot because there's so many expectations that we're taking on in our roles to like get things done and we're passing them off. That it's something that I realized maybe 6 months ago. I was like, am I really giving my team the opportunity to develop and learn? And that doesn't even necessarily mean to be like where I'm teaching them every week and running a curriculum. But like, am I giving them space to do, stuff, which was a big learning for me. But when I look at who's on my team, a lot of them do have years of experience and they are, more along in their career. I don't have a lot of more junior staff. I have actually, that's not true. Probably about 3 of them. But even out of those 3, 2 of them have several years of work experience still.
Yeah.
So the time it takes to mentor junior talent, like if I was to be honest around what I'm looking to bring on into my team, I don't have at present the time or capacity to spend a lot of time developing someone. So I either have to rely on sending them on courses, giving them small projects, but being okay if they F it up, and giving them space, which is a not great thing to be. Like, I don't like that about being a manager. So when I look at AI, I'm looking at it for even myself. I'm like, okay, how can I take some of my pressure off of me?
Which I think is the right way.
Yeah. Like, how can I, when I'm doing my budgeting and invoicing, if I'm doing, trying to synthesize meeting notes, or I'm, anything that I can do to use AI to make free up time in my work week so that, again, like I'm able to hire someone else onto my team who's going to be a bit more junior. I need to make sure I have that space so that I can spend time with them, directing them, giving them feedback, developing them further. And I think in corporate, there's also a huge apprehension to quote unquote develop people and invest in them, because in, our parents' generation, you would stay at a job for like 5, 10, 15, 20 years, right? So that investment had a return over time. Whereas, especially with more junior people, naturally, because of the way that the world works right now, they're career jumping every 2 years. So I think there's an expectation in corporate that if you're going to bring someone on, even in a more junior role, you are expecting them to contribute and produce right away. I don't think that's the right way to think about it. But I think that also has created this vacuum in a way with a younger generation that needs to be developed so that in 5, 10 years, they can sit where you and I are sitting right now.
Yeah. And I completely agree with everything you just said. And you said it really well. I think the part I think about is what mentorship actually even means now. Like, what are we mentoring them or coaching them on? And I think that is now changing because of AI and how we can do executional tasks much quicker. So like, how do you teach discernment? How do you teach creativity? How do you teach, I just was just in my head, subject matter expertise, and have that like ingrained in someone. To some extent, it is about allowing people to fail and understand why that didn't work, or understanding, not even fail, but try again and understand why that's not working. But I think it's like looking at the people in my life who I think are like, my boss, I think, is phenomenal at her job. And so much of what makes her phenomenal at her job is learning through trial and error, or being in the right rooms. So how can we facilitate that for the right things? And I don't exactly know how to do that yet, while still embracing the positive benefits of what AI can do, because there are loads. I just get nervous about losing those sort of core skills.
So with my team, we have a policy around what we can and can't use AI for. So we're not allowed to use it in anything that, like, any op-eds, any publications, like published content or white papers or things like that. They can use it to brainstorm. They can use it to like come up with titles. They can use it to like, other things like that. But we have a pretty strict line in the sand around what they can and can't use it for. Now, that said, a few years ago, and by a few, I mean like a year and a half, when I would, we have pretty strict approvals across the entire pipeline, just on the communication side. So before something goes out, it's gone through at least one other person, myself or our president, to sign off on. So before there's a consequence of them sending something out and saying something they shouldn't say, or positioning something they shouldn't say in a certain way, we're there to kind of be that backdrop for them and give them that feedback. So there's guardrails in place, especially for more junior staff, until they've built up that muscle. So there's room for them to fail without failing publicly, right?
Yes.
And I say fail as in like, it's just not what we would publish. The other thing that I started doing, and this is a really big learning for me, because I just want to do it myself. I'm like, well, I can just do it the way I want to do it. So delegating has been a huge thing. And I have a really hard time when I receive something that I'm reviewing, not just editing and changing the words the way I want it to say on the page or how I would say something. And so instead, what I've started doing is, rather than going through and tracking changes in, like, I'll use like an article, for example. What I've started doing is going through and making comments and being like, or asking questions, or telling them what I'm looking for more as a directional piece, without giving them the paint by numbers along the way. Because I want them to understand what it is that I'm looking for, but come up with it in a way that works for them, not just necessarily accept my tracked changes and then hit publish.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice reframe too, because I can imagine a world where if you're leveraging AI to create the content, for instance, I know that that's not what you're saying, but like if you were leveraging AI to do some of that content creation, you end up spending, instead of it being like 15% of your time editing, it's actually like, 30% of time creating content, and then 70% coaching on like what is right and why, not from a word choice perspective, but from a like, what is the sentiment we're trying to get after, or what is the context that you're missing here? So I think that that's a really nice reframe of like, maybe it's not, and I think it just means that as managers and as people in our career, we just have to think very intentionally about what is that breakdown of labor and how it's going to shift when we do start putting so much more, onus into AI.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like giving someone, like, we had a press release a few weeks ago, and rather than just writing the, like, what I thought was missing into the press release itself, I wrote back to the person on my team and I was like, I feel like we're missing something around this. Can you add that?
Yeah.
And so again, like, that's a very specific small example, but like, and I've also kind of worked through with all of them the questions that I want them to ask themselves before they send something to me. So like, if you can't like just very simply, like if, have you done, have you checked all of the, I don't know how to explain this.
It's a checklist, basically.
Basically, yeah. And like at the very end of that checklist, if they can't answer, again, it only applies to certain things, but the so what?
Yeah.
We're not publishing it.
Yeah.
What's the point? And if I can't get that in like one sentence and very clearly from them, I want to make sure that the time that I'm having them spend doing things also is giving them the opportunity to develop. Because even when I was having a hard time delegating and was getting shit from my team being like, let us do fucking something.
Yeah.
The reframe for me came from, I'm taking away moments for them to try something new and develop and learn.
Yeah.
And I'm hurting myself in the process.
Totally. And actually it comes back to that intentionality piece and effort piece of like coaching. And when you were talking before about, time saved so that you can spend more time in coaching, I think you love coaching and managing your team. And I think that that's great. But I also think the very cynical part of me thinks that there might be a contingent of people who think, oh, I can save time and then I can just like fuck around, like, like not investing back into the people that they're managing. So I think it actually does take more effort not to just correct. Like
massively
it's so much easier for me to just be like, this is what the title of the press release should be, or this is what the topic should be for our next content campaign. So it's about creating space in that way. And then the feedback loop of that. And I know I'm very aware of the fact that we're talking specifically about marketing right now.
Yeah.
So I'm very curious what people think, because we do try and shy away from just talking about specifically our job, but this is obviously where the conversation took us. But how does that relate to any of the work that our listeners like that you guys do? Or how does that relate to different areas where you're thinking about either seeking mentorship for yourself or mentoring anyone else, or, coaching young people? Because I think that intentionality piece is relevant regardless of what we're talking about.
Totally. I think there's several parts in my career right now where I feel like I could be better at. And then there's parts where I'm like, I don't know what I don't know. So a really good manager, I think, will always point out your blind spots. But a good manager shouldn't make you feel like shit about it. They should also coach you around, like, not just point it out, but give you like tangible things you can do. So if you don't have that, don't be afraid also to like seek it out, but also don't be afraid to like ask for it. Like I've received feedback before where I'm like, okay, that's great. Can you give me examples? How do I fix this? Like, don't be afraid to ask those questions. And I think people are so scared from an interpersonal relationship perspective now at work to ask for feedback, because we expect that we just have to be perfect all the time and can't have it figured out. But the reality is the best people you have on your team are the ones that aren't afraid to be told when they're not doing something right, or they can develop more, or they can become better at something. And the other thing too is when it comes to your own development, don't be afraid to also just seek feedback blindly. You don't wait for someone to point out to you what you're not good at. Like if you are seeking to progress down your own pipeline of your level of expertise in a certain category, and this could even be not just work, this could be in your friendships. This could be in dating. I'm not asking you to send a survey to your dates or your exes, but like,
go for it if you want to.
I mean, that's a ballsy move, but there's a way in which you can set yourself up to be able to receive feedback in a loop. You just have to be willing and open to receiving it and leveraging it. Like I joked at the beginning of this podcast, like where every man is a lesson or every date is, an opportunity. it's a really, really difficult reframe, especially in the dating culture we have right now, to not let it get the best of you. It's gotten the best of me. Like, I'm on pause right now, taking a bit of a beat. But when you are in the right headspace, looking at every experience as a way to either better understand yourself, better understand how you approach things, or figure out what you would do differently, I think only can serve us at the end of the day. And you can sit there and talk to ChatGPT as much as you want and ask them for feedback and to decipher your text messages and, you know, analyze the situation for you as much as you want. But the reality is you also have to spend the time integrating that into yourself. It's the same as if you were to go to therapy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I joke that ChatGPT is my therapist. It's not. Like, it will never be able to replace it. But regardless of if I'm talking to a human being, talking to a friend, a therapist, or a bot, there has to be a willingness on the receiver's end to integrate, an openness to receive feedback, and then a willingness to admit that maybe there's a better way to do things or different way to approach things, so that you can continue to progress in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I think
that's the barrier right now more than anything.
That like willingness to progress, like that willingness to openly acknowledge that you want to get better,
or willingness to acknowledge that maybe you're not as far along as you thought you were.
Yeah.
It's a willingness to be humbled.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think, and I'm totally along the same lines here. I think when we think about the ways in which you can invite that type of feedback, or ways in which you can invite being humbled, I think going into it in a humble way of seeking advice from the right people. So when I think about things that, like, if I was a trend forecaster, when I think about things that are going to become even more important in work, like networking is going to become even more important, right? Because how do you learn from people outside of your manager or outside of folks that are internal to your organization when a lot of what we're doing is either remote or it's being automated? Like, how do you seek out that human side of people who've been there before and can walk you through challenges, or can give you advice about how to get to be in the right rooms, or to get exposure to things that maybe you aren't getting at your current company or in your life, in whatever facet you're thinking of. So I think, yeah, that's another thing that came up for me when you were talking about how to be humbled. Like, I think thinking about the human experience that other people have had and how you can benefit from that, but also in a way that's not like super transactional, right? Like, having those relationships will also help you further into down the line in your career. So yeah.
Relationships are going to be even more important as AI continues to progress, because as people can like we'll just use job applications as an example, right? As people can mass apply for jobs, like, you're going to be competing with so many more people at the end of the day, that how you stand out isn't going to be by a beautifully designed cover letter or a resume. It's going to be based on how you know, and your interpersonal skills, and how do you approach it? How do you submit it? Who do you reach out to? Like, all of that's going to matter so much more. And those soft skills are going to be everyone's ticket forward. And you just have to really not, this is such a full circle thing, but you just have to not care what people think at the end of the day.
Yeah. The other thing I come back to is demonstrating that willingness to be vulnerable and to have sort of like some level of radical candor with your team. Like, I know for me, when I don't understand something in like a group meeting that my team is on, I'll be like, I don't get that. Can you explain a little bit more? Like, being able to show anyone who's coming up in their career that it's okay to say, I don't understand. Can you explain further? Or can you give me an example? I think showing that, I keep wanting to say the word performing that. I don't mean performing, but like demonstrating that that's okay in whatever ways you can is also, I think, a helpful thing to do for folks who are more junior and are growing in their career.
Yeah, and I think you have to recognize, like, when I look at everyone on my team, there is skill sets within my team that I cannot do myself. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, I probably could figure it out, but like, I am managing people that are specialists in certain things that I myself am not a specialist or do not have experience in. So you have to recognize that to progress, you don't have to know everything. And it's not bad if you don't know everything. But to get to that point, you have to be willing to ask the questions, and you have to be willing to like have the conversations and be curious along the way, because I'm not a designer. I know what I like, but I'm not a designer.
Yeah.
I'm not an events manager. I don't, know the intricacies of all these things. And I've learned so much from my team. And I think even as managers and people leaders, there's this idea sometimes that, well, we've developed, and so now we have to develop our team. But the reality is in most cases, our team is still also developing us.
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to be open to that, and, put your ego aside, and this idea that you have to know everything and do everything and I'll use this as an example. So I just had my conference this past week, and I am like, last year was very, 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 very hands-on in it, on the details, doing all the things. And I almost didn't let my team breathe to do what they needed to do. And this year I really took a step back, and I really pulled back from what the day-to-day of, what they were doing and producing. And I got out of their hair, and I really struggled with, I'm not doing enough. I'm not in it. I'm not like, do they think I'm not supportive? And again, I'm a mental case. So that's a whole other issue. But like, I really struggled with that in the last week, being like, well, do they need me? What's the value if I'm not doing this? If I'm letting them do it. And it was a big learning that, like, actually they really appreciated me being out of their hair. And they also said, like, we had a golf tournament one day, and I, like, at 6:30 in the morning, picked up the paper and just started checking people in on the bus. And on Thursday, when we were sitting talking, one of them was like, why did you do that? We had people that could do that. And I was like, well, I just wanted to, like, do something. And they're like, help us elevate you. But, like, you should have been just, like, having a coffee and network and go around and like, focused on the relationships and all of that. And she's like, it's not just you there to help us. We're here to help you in your job as well. And that was a very big humbling moment, to be like, got it. But I've struggled with that last week,
because it's a reminder that you are in development in a different phase.
Massively so.
You're like, oh, right. I have to start to understand who I'm supposed to be learning from,
and where does the value that I derive. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, an area that I'm still developing in massively. Making strides, but it's not perfect.
I know that this was not meant to just be career focused, and it became very career focused.
Very career focused.
But I don't know. I would love for folks to tell us, like, do you like when we talk about career? Is this because obviously we both work in the same really similar field. So I want to make sure it's deeply relevant for people.
I think too, like, what do people like? I think just talking about marketing, no, probably not for the vast majority of people. But I think you and I have a lot of value to offer in terms of career, because I feel like that's a pillar in our life that in most instances we've got locked down,
full control over. So
yeah, and like, I've got a lot of advice that, I mean, is it perfect? No, but like, I've got a lot of advice that I think we could be maybe tapping into more. And I think you and I are very hesitant to tap into that a lot. So I'd be interested to know if people want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And what they want to know. What questions do you have for us?
Yeah, absolutely. We hope you enjoyed this. We will link to the article that I initially referenced at the beginning in the show notes. Yep. Probably should have said that at the beginning. But thank you guys, and we'll see you soon.
We love you.
Love you. Bye. Bye.